I have Chad Ryker with me today. And, why don't I let you introduce yourself? You want to tell us what you do? Tell us a little bit about Backcountry Rookies. You already mentioned where you live. Start us
Yeah.
off.
Yeah. So Albuquerque, New Mexico. I moved out here. Well, let me back up a little bit. So I'm Chad Ryker, and I am the host of another podcast that's called Backcountry Rookies. And that podcast started. So it's been kind of a weird roller coaster, actually. I started that podcast about 4 or 5 years, getting close to 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
And it was around for a while, and I had close to 250-ish episodes, 230 or something like that I had
Nice.
released. And there was a lot, right? I had a lot going on with it. And when I started it, I was on a network, and I ended up leaving that network for various reasons, right? All kinds of reasons. But I left that network, and when I did, the RSS feed that I was on stayed with the network, and I had to leave everything behind.
Ooh,
basically.
really?
Yep. So I left the network and I started over with episode number 1, right? Started
Ooh,
all the way over from the beginning,
clean
and
start.
clean slate. But okay, so I'll get to what Backcountry Rookies is in a minute. I guess it's probably a long story. When I left, I had all of my old episodes saved on this hard drive right here, actually. And
All right.
I was all excited because I had all of my old episodes and I could upload everything. And then ultimately that hard drive crashed and I lost everything that I had. So really was at square one.
Wow.
So, yeah. So Backcountry Rookies started, I knew nothing about Western hunting. So I grew up, I was born and raised in Indiana. I was a Midwest guy.
Wait, which part of Indiana?
I grew up around just south of Lafayette, Indiana, in
Okay. All right.
a little town called Crawfordsville, and then an even smaller town next to that's called Darlington. That's like 500 people and
Interesting.
cornfields.
Okay.
And that's about it.
I asked, I got family from the northwest corner.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, northwest corner.
Yeah,
Anyways.
Gary up in that region.
Oh yeah,
Chicago,
right outside of Gary, Indiana, the armpit of America.
I'm not going to argue that. So born and raised out there, and I whitetail hunted and coyote hunted and just kind of did Indiana kid stuff.
Yep.
Ended up joining the Army and left Indiana. Never really went back for hunting. I still go back now for family purposes and stuff, but I don't really go back. And anyway, traveled around the world, traveled around the United States with the military, and ended up meeting my wife, who is from West Texas. And that kind of brought the bug back because I was able to, fortunately, through some family, I had access to some very big private ranches in West Texas. And so that got me back into mule deer hunting. And then ultimately, I let that mule deer hunting on big private ranches led me to want more of an adventure and kind of a over-the-counter public land type of opportunity. And then I land in Colorado and I'm on an elk hunt, so one thing leads to another, and there I am. But Backcountry Rookies started because I had no clue of what backcountry hunting or Western hunting was. I didn't even know what public land was until I watched a Randy Newberg video on YouTube,
Yep.
So so then I started to understand, well, it isn't that difficult to get out west and to do some of these big game hunts. And there was a couple of other, back then there wasn't a ton of podcasts, there was a few. And I had recently been introduced to podcasts and Western hunting at the same time. And and I didn't really know, I wasn't getting what I wanted from that brand new rookie guy perspective from what I was listening to and what I was seeing on YouTube. And I thought, well, this is it. I'm just going to start my own thing from the absolute rookies perspective. And so that's where it all started. I would like to say it's still there. I've kind of drifted away from that. The longer I get into it, it seems like the more when I talk to people and I interview people for the podcast, obviously I've become more educated over 5 years. And so those conversations aren't quite as I know a lot more now, right? Like some of the questions.
I mean, you've done like how many podcasts now? At least 250 or 30
right?
from the first round.
I'm close to 300, but there's only like 60 out there now since I lost the majority.
Okay. Well, and you learn a lot as you go, and we've had the same thing. It's like, if you're,
Yeah.
because at first when we started, we were like, well, we should probably try. We were talking about, it's like, well, we can't do a podcast. We don't know everything about hunting. There's people that know way more than us,
Yeah.
and it's like the tendency is like, oh, I can't do this because I don't know enough. But if you're fine, open about that, which is a lot of what we've learned in ours, it's kind of nice for learning a ton because you're in the driver's seat and you can ask all the questions that you have.
Yeah. And what I really like is by calling myself a backcountry rookie.
Yeah.
I don't get a whole bunch of questions because there's not a lot of people out there that want to trust the rookie. Right. So reality is I've learned a ton of stuff, and I know way more than what I did before, but I still think I get less questions than what most people do. And if I screw up, then I just say, well, I didn't know what I was doing.
That's right.
I'm a rookie. I have no clue. So don't blame me.
You get a good out.
Yeah.
What's up? We are going to thank a few of these sponsors that help make this beautiful show a reality for all of you. So here we go. So a big reason, I would say, to why we're so successful and we have so many bucks on the wall is because we use HuntWise. HuntWise is a GPS mapping app that you can download on any phone, any platform. You can look up public land huntings, ORV trails. You can get the weather. They actually have a HuntCast 2.0 that they teamed up with Jeff Sturgis to make. It's awesome. You need to check this thing out. Go to HuntWise, download the app.
I feel like if you go into the woods without optics, it's like going into the woods without pants on. Would you agree with that?
To a point.
To a point. We are huge fans of running binoculars, spotting scopes, and different things when we hunt, even whitetail. I bring binoculars out every time I go. We choose Vortex Optics because they make the best glass in the business. They have an amazing warranty, super clear glass, super helpful people that work there.
Also, if you want to rep some sweet Vortex swag like this warm shirt on a nice fall day, head over to Vortex Wear, thank you, and use the promo code TFC20 for 20% off your purchase. Saddle game, you need to be in it. If you haven't been in it yet, then you don't know what you're missing.
Yeah.
Trophy Line Tree Sales makes some of the best saddles in the industry. They have 3 different platforms that we use and that are awesome.
I want to make a quick plug for the Wingman with a couple steps. You can take one less step, stick, and it's like a combination of a stick and a platform. I've been exclusively hunting out of it this year, and my mobile setup is so sweet. I'm very proud of it.
Awesome.
I highly recommend the Wingman system.
If you're ready to pull the trigger on that and you want to get with James and do the Wingman, head over to the website and you can save yourself 10% on the purchase. TFC10 will get you that. I like to think I single-handedly got James to switch to compound again, but I'd probably be a liar and everyone would call me out on that. We shoot prime bows. We think they're awesome. Great accuracy, super shootable.
Made here in Michigan.
Made in Michigan, so we love that. It's hard to complain.
That's where Jared was made. So
surprisingly,
we like that. Yeah.
Welcome. So go check out these prime bows.
We are of a firm belief that the arrow is the lifeblood of the archery industry. We've said it 1,000 times. But in all seriousness, we are huge fans of arrows that are durable, that fly well, and that kind of make up for some of my inaccuracies in the way that I shoot. So we shoot Vector custom arrows. The hammer.
That's Thor.
They are made in Wisconsin by our buddy Isaac. Great arrows. And if you want to go and get yourself some, have a little bit of a discount, use TFC10 for 10% off. Or call Isaac up and tell him we sent you.
Mm-hmm. You want his phone number? Comment below.
Yep, comment below.
Well, it's a cool thing what you're doing. And I would imagine at this point you've been in a lot of hunts. You've been on a lot of hunts out west, and if you had to look back and think about, like, thinking of all of the experience you've had, and you could pick one time this year to hunt, one place and time this year, you only get one hunt. Yeah. Like, what would you, after all the learning and all the growing and all the things you've experienced, what would that look like? What would that be?
I actually drew that tag this year. I think probably I won't say it's my dream tag, but it's a tag that I'm really, really happy to have after I drew it. And it is a muzzleloader hunt here in New Mexico. And
cool.
So it's a mule deer muzzleloader hunt. I'm super excited about it. And I think it's just going to be a ton of fun. And the unit is not far from my house. So I've been out there. Well, I went out there, me and one of my friends that's hunting with me, him and I went out there for 3 days, like late July or early August or something, and we scouted a lot. Access, learning the roads, figuring out how to get in and out, where we wanted to hunt, and we just looking at the area, like big view perspective.
Sure.
So we were able to get in there, boots on the ground early. And then I was recently on an elk hunt that was in the same unit. So I was able to
you
go
got
in
some
it.
intel. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the whole time glassing and spending time behind glass looking for elk and deer pop up. Right. So now I have a lot of really, really good intel for that unit, and I'm really excited about it.
So the dream hunt, just to recap: muzzle loader, New Mexico, mule deer.
Yeah,
I
don't know that
that's
my
cool.
I won't say that's my dream hunt, because there's bighorn sheep and there's
sure,
there's things out of reach.
What you've done, like your favorite.
Yeah. But this is going to be a good one. I'm excited about it, and I get to hunt with one of my best hunting friends. Right, there's the group of guys that are coming on it. So one of my really, really good hunting buddies that I've been hunting with for years, him and I hunt Coues deer in Arizona together every year over the counter in January. And he actually drew the same tag. Somehow, as a non-resident, he drew the same tag that I drew as a resident. And so he's coming out for it. So him and I will both have tags to hunt in the same unit for muzzle loaders. And then there's a couple of other good friends that are coming out to glass and just help and be part of the hunt. So it's going to be a good crew, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's a theme. That's like a common theme in that question: being able to hunt with your family or your good friends. That's like half of what makes it a dream hunt.
For sure.
Final question before we jump into your story. So the question of the month for us right now is: so you've been hunting. It's end of September. You're going on some hunts. Looking into your backpack right now, like in your mind, open it up. What is the most useless? I wrote in my notes useful, and I almost said it. That wouldn't even make any sense for this question. What is the most useless piece of gear in your pack right now? Thing that's just a waste of space, but you bring it anyways.
I take two. Okay, so this is tough because I don't pack.
You can admit it. You're a rookie. Remember, you get the rookie.
Yeah, right. But I don't pack a lot at all. I'm not really much of a backpack hunter style. I do a lot of camps. I hunt out of the truck. I hike for 3 or 4 miles. But I will tell you, there's definitely something that's used less, and it's the 3 pounds of food and snacks that I take most of the time. But I don't need that much. If I'm just day hunting, I'll start pulling stuff out of my bag, and I've got a couple of packs of M&Ms, and I've got beef jerky, and I've got a whole meal, like a dehydrated meal, and then I've got a cook pot, with all of this stuff to cook all this food. Yeah. And I always pull all that out, and I'm like, what in the heck? Why do I need all this stuff, man? I'm only out here for like 3 hours, maybe.
An army moves on its stomach. That was a wise man once said that to me. And I was doing manual labor in college, or no, high school or college. And he would come during lunchtime, and he would bring me, and actually I was working with Jared who, at the time, but he would bring us like 15 quarter pounders. And he'd be like, all right, boys, gather around. An army moves on its stomach, and you eat, just big greasy burger and go back to work. So yeah, there's something to it. All right, let's just
something to it for sure.
Let's dive into the story. Like I said, kind of these podcasts are themed around a great hunting story that you've lived, something maybe an extreme hunt or just a meaningful hunt or a great hunting story. I'll turn the mic over to you. Take it away.
Oh man, I'm very long-winded, so I hope you've got some time.
Yeah.
No, so I will say, man, there's a lot of them that I could say, but last year I took my first elk, and I think that one probably has meant the most to me so far. The cow elk, I didn't shoot a bull or anything. I had a cow tag. And let me back up and talk about how I acquired this tag, and then we'll talk a little bit about the story.
Yeah.
So I'm retired military guy, right? So I have a lot of military friends and have connections with a lot of military people. And one of my very, very good hunting buddies is, or a couple of my good hunting buddies are Air Force guys. I don't know how Army dudes and Air Force dudes got linked up, but whatever, we make it work. And so my good friend was deployed at the time overseas, and he is texting me, while he's deployed, and he says, man, I'm going to miss my he had drawn a couple of good tags, right? He had a really good New Mexico elk tag, and then he also had a really good mule deer tag in Arizona. And because of his deployment, he lost both of those and wasn't able to hunt them.
Okay.
Right. And real quick, he didn't like totally lose the elk tag in New Mexico, but if you're a deployed military, you're actually able to gift that tag to another military member that can use it. So
really,
yeah, you have to be deployed, and it has to be to another military service person. But you can do
That's
it. So
cool.
it's not like you totally eat the tag. Somebody else gets it and they can pay you for it, however it works. But anyway, so he's deployed and he keeps texting me like, I don't think I'm going to make it home. I don't think I'm going to make it home in time for this elk hunt. And I'm not going to make it. So, we scratched our losses on that. And unfortunately, okay, he gives up the tag and we don't go on it. So then he comes home and he gets home. I think it was about mid-October or something. And one day he texts me and he says, let's buy some cow elk tags, because in New Mexico, you can buy a landowner tag after the draw. If you don't draw anything, then you can purchase a landowner tag. So we have that option. And he says, look, I've had plenty of time to do the research and I have this opportunity, right? I can get 2 tags. Would you want to buy one of those tags? And I thought, you know what, this is really, really cool. This dude lost 2 hunts and I just really want to hunt with him. And it was a good unit. It was perfect. So we ended up buying those 2 tags and spent the weekend up in northern New Mexico on this elk hunt. And my friend, I guess he was tired of being in terrible situations, because he said, I'm doing this totally different. Like, we could set up camp, or I could just get an Airbnb in town and we could totally just live it up, and we could drive out every day and hunt the hunt. So we ended up staying in this beautiful Airbnb, and we're driving out to the unit every morning. I think we each had about 4 days for the hunt or something like that. Or he maybe had longer, but I had like 4 days.
Yeah.
And we go out the first day. We all kind of hunted together in the beginning. It was me and my friend Daniel Porter and my other friend CJ Steffen. And we literally hit the ground. We hike up to the top of the hill, and CJ or Dan, one of them said, hey, there's usually elk right down here in this bowl, right? That, like, just be quiet as you're walking up, because I see them up here all the time. And we walked up and we kind of got set up. It was a rifle hunt, and we get set up behind the rifles, and literally, I don't even think I had sat down on the ground yet. And CJ says, oh, there's a bowl up there. And we look over, and it's one of those moments, man, where the sun is rising behind the crest of the hill, and this bull is standing up there, and it's got this beautiful rack, and the sun's coming up behind it. It's just picture perfect, right?
You'll love to see it.
Oh man. And we just say, oh God, I wish I had a bull tag, whatever. We're going through it. And then it's like, we're like, oh, well, there's a cow right there, and there's another cow, and there's another cow. And so we ended up, I attempted to take a shot on one of those, and it was pretty terrible shooting position, and it was pretty far out. So that one didn't work out. But
sometimes you got to aim high, play the wind,
yeah, just kind of lick your finger and figure it out and go with it. But the funny part of that was Dan got so excited because he thought that I had killed that elk right then. Like, he leaves his rifle, he leaves his backpack, he leaves everything laying on the ground, and he comes running. We had kind of separated at that point, and he comes running up the hill, and he's like, you shot that elk, you shot that elk. And he starts getting so excited. And meanwhile, that whole herd, that there was like 7 or 8 of them, I think, were literally running right toward where Dan was sitting, where his rifle and his backpack and everything was sitting on the side of the hill. If he would have stayed there, he would have had like a 40-yard rifle shot at a cow that ran past him. So anyway, just kind of chaos and everything in the moment. And we went up there, and I didn't kill that elk. So we moved on, right? We kind of followed the herd to see what we can do. But ultimately that day we ended up putting in something like 9 miles, right? Just hiked and hiked and hiked and hiked. And we had a great time, and we just took it slow and easy. And it was just, 3 friends out there having a good time.
Yeah.
And we go back to the Airbnb that night and had a couple of beers or whatever and some good food, and we enjoyed ourselves, and get up the next morning and kind of try the same thing again, put some miles on, and just worked our way around. But at this time we had split up. Dan was going to a different spot. We were trying to maximize opportunity. I think that day we hiked around quite a bit. And then the next day, CJ, we were in the same area as that day before. And then I think it was the third day, CJ and I decided to go to a different area, totally different drainage, like 2 or 3 over. And we hiked out there. We saw several bulls and just beautiful area, found some really nice old like deadhead stuff, and just a cool spot. Right. And that day I know for a fact we did 9 miles, because when we got back, we were walking back to the truck, and I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool? This beautiful meadow, right? We're standing there, we're overlooking this beautiful mountain meadow. And I was like, man, it just seems like there should be an elk standing right over there, dude, literally like right underneath that tree. And he's like, well, that's weird, because there is one standing over there. And all you could see was like the nose. He started looking through the binos and he picks one out. And it was like 1,000 yards away. So we weren't going to try to do anything with that. Right. There was no play on it because the wind was terrible. Everything was wrong. But we watched it for a little bit. And then we're making our way back to the truck. And we were I think it was about 400 yards from the truck. And there was a little water hole right there. And we crested the hill, and there was a big bull and a cow standing right there at the water hole. And I shot this cow at, I want to say it was about 125 yards.
Oh, perfect.
And I drop her right there, and we both look up, and everybody's excited, right? We're high-fiving and doing the celebratory thing. And we looked up, and we hit the rangefinder, and we ranged the back end of my truck, and it was like 425 yards to the truck after we had already walked 9 miles around that whole every canyon we could find. We walked it. And we went and we started getting the cow all prepped and, broke down. And then we went and got the truck, and we drove over there, and we backed up to her, and we loaded her up in the back of the truck. So,
every hunter, not every hunter, I would say many hunters out there have I've experienced this. I feel like this is, such a classic thing. You do all the work, you go all the way out, and it's right in front of the truck where you find to make something happen.
Yeah. Well, we had some, so I missed one, another one. I missed one, just a terrible shot.
Right.
Earlier that morning, and we were about 5 miles from the truck.
Okay. All right.
So we get back over to where we're at, and CJ was like, I'm really, really glad you missed that cow 5 miles back there, because I didn't want to haul that thing out. And then we shot one right there. So I probably sound like a terrible shot. And the funny thing is I'm actually a pretty good shot. But it was offhand, and kind of one of those, we had climbed right up a mountain and breathing heavy, and just kind of a thing, and it just quick snap type shot, and should have put a lot more effort into building a better shooting position. And so,
but in the moment
take your time,
you're moving. Yeah, and I guess that's a good lesson. I've had that before. I know some really good hunters who I've seen happen to them before too, where it's like, you think you never know sometimes when you're hunting if you need to move fast or slow. Like, how much time do you have? Sometimes it's like, all right, it's time to be slow. Sometimes you got to go fast, and figuring out the difference is hard. And because I feel like it's so situational, there's almost like no hard and fast rule. You just kind of have to feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause sometimes there'll be an animal that'll just stand there and look at you for 30 or 45 seconds.
Yep.
When you could find a tree and you could make a good rest, or you could take a knee and build a shooting position. There's all kinds of stuff that you could do. And then there's other times where as soon as that animal hears the stick crack, they're long gone, and you don't even know they're there.
I've not mastered that yet.
No, and nobody probably ever will, I don't think. So but so we get back to the truck, we get the elk, I'll say packed out of there. We literally lifted it up and set it on the tailgate, and then drove it back to the Airbnb. And then it was, I think that night too, we get back, and Dan had a turkey, right? Like he had shot a turkey while he was out, and saw one. And so we had a turkey, and then we had the elk. And then it was time to leave the Airbnb, and we went out and we set up a camp, and we kind of did the real hunting side of it. And I had to leave. I think it was the next morning I had to leave, or maybe we all hunted together one more day to try to get Dan a cow. And then I had to leave because I had to get back for work and, back to town. Dan ended up shooting a cow later on in that weekend or whatever it was, that later in that week. So he shot a nice cow too. He ended up getting one. Yeah. So it was a really, really successful thing. And it was just super cool because those guys, CJ had been traveling a ton for his work as an Air Force guy. So I didn't really get to see him much. And then Dan was deployed, and then we all kind of came together, and everybody just came together, and we were able to hunt together.
And to make it, make something happen together is that's just awesome. You never forget that.
Yeah. It was good.
Looking back, as we kind of round out the podcast here, looking back, like, usually I'll ask for maybe a lesson learned from failure, or maybe some kind of tip or something that contributed to success. Like, looking back on it, what would you say? What'd you learn from that hunt?
I learned this. I wish that I could learn it every time, but I think patience is absolutely important. Just being patient. And in other hunts, I've learned this too. Just slowing down and taking the time to look around and understand your surroundings. There's been so many times where I've just walked up on a bull elk or something that blows out of there, and then you see them at 50 yards, and then they're gone, right? You see them run. That happens all the time. It happened a couple of weeks ago when we were on this other elk hunt. We were walking through a bunch of old like sage and juniper brush and stuff. And next thing you know, I look up and there's a bull just like running in front of us at about 40 yards. And he just kept on going. He was a little bull, but anyway, I think being patient and slowing down and taking your time, it really, really is important. Like that cow that I talked about that was 4 or 5 miles away from the truck. She was bedded and she was laying there. And as soon as she saw us and there was like eye connection made, she was up on her feet. But I really think that if I would have just slowed down, taken a few deep breaths, there was a couple of trees around me on either side. And I really think I could have walked over, set up on the tree and kind of used the tree for stability and taken my time. And that probably would have only taken me maybe 10 or 15 seconds to set that up. And I likely would have had a much, much better opportunity at that elk. Luckily I had the opportunity later and it worked out later, but maybe it wouldn't have, and then that would have been my last opportunity. So slowing down, taking the time, listening. I think a lot of times people will, I'll shoot. There's been times where I've been sitting down, eating my lunch, and a couple of guys, and we're just sitting there having like a full on conversation at full volume. And the next thing you know, you hear animals, you hear something and they're gone.
Yeah.
So
they're always moving through. Yeah.
Yeah. They're always they do whatever they do, right? They're animals.
Oh man. Well, hey, Chad, thanks for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story and a little bit about you. You do run a great podcast. Like, the stuff you're putting out is great. And so for people who are listening right now and want to check you out on social media or your podcast, where can they find you?
Yep. Everything is Backcountry Rookies. I've got a website that needs tended to for sure. But my Instagram is out there. That's probably the best way to reach out. I have Facebook that I don't use much. I have a private group over on Facebook that's called the Backcountry Rookies Nation. And there's probably about 5,000 or 6,000 people in that group now. And that group was put together so that there's no sponsors. There's no hard, like, you can come in there and ask the most rookie question that you want, and you will get a positive answer. You're not going to get the typical Facebook response of, you're an idiot. That's been asked 50 times. Somebody will take the time to respond to it. And if they respond inappropriately, then we just get rid of them from the group. And
you get the boot. Be nice.
Yeah. It's moderated very, very well. And, but yeah, that's a good group. But Backcountry Rookies, pretty much anywhere you want to find us. And we're out there.
Excellent. Well, hey, Chad, thanks again. And hopefully we get to do this again. I want to hear more hunting stories.
I've got plenty. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks.